What the media focus on and what they don't. It's interesting, isn't it? Ooh la la. Let's talk about the Dan Wootton situation, shall we? Now, I spoke at length about the so-called scandal involving the BBC presenter Hugh Edwards, allegations made by The Sun, a tawdry little rag, it must be said, involving illegality with a 17-year-old. Those allegations dissolved. They were not true about illegality. The then 20-year-old at the centre of the allegations strenuously denying claims that were made by the parents, so a contested story. The Sun then floundering around trying to make something stick, including a 23-year-old who accused Hugh Edwards of engaging in an entirely consensual texting relationship and Hugh Edwards coming to his flat to make him tea. Now, there are allegations involving inappropriate behaviour with BBC staff, which do need to be taken seriously and properly investigated. No one's denying that, but that's not what The Sun went in on hard about. Edwards was completely hounded. I mean, it was just the main news story for day after day after day by the full weight of the British media. Even the BBC, his own employers, piled in to the extent he was hospitalised with a mental health crisis. Now, it's worth using that context to talk about Dan Wootton because a series of serious allegations have been made against him. There hasn't been wall-to-wall coverage about him by his former employers at The Sun. His employer at the Mail on Sunday, we'll come on to that. And indeed, multiple media outlets have not given it, let's be honest about it, very much prominence at all, to say the least. Now, Dan Wootton is a former showbiz hack for The Sun newspaper, whose job involved raking over the private lives of celebrities in deeply, often intrusive ways. That's how the media work, to encourage us, the British public, to judge them. Now, Lily Allen is a celebrity who accused him of bullying and constant surveillance. Allegations again for Dan Wootton to refute. Now, Wootton said these past few days I've been the target of a smear campaign by nefarious players with an axe to grind. I, like all fallible human beings, have made errors of judgment in the past, but the criminal allegations being made against me are simply untrue. He set up a crowdfunder to raise money to take legal action against Byline Times, the outlet which broke the allegations, which he laughably calls a hard left blog. They're not hard left. Accusing them of a deranged campaign of harassment designed to destroy me financially, mentally and professionally. He set a target, a goal of £150,000 in order to take that legal action. I should say it has stalled at around a quarter of the target that he set. He also made allegations against his former boyfriend, who he essentially accuses of a vendetta, who played a key role in the allegations. Now, he's entitled to a defence. I'm going to say that. It's really important to say that, to push back against what are allegations. His innocence is there for him to prove. But let's just discuss what the allegations are, because two former colleagues of his at News of the World have written up the allegations for Byline Times. They allege he hid behind the fictional pseudonym Martin Branning to trick and bribe scores of men into revealing compromising sexual material, I'm quoting here, offering up to £30,000 tax-free to men, many of them straight. Two of them allegedly made criminal complaints without knowing the identity, didn't know it was him, allegedly targeting them. His former partner alleged that his Gmail account was being accessed from an IP address at News of the World, that he found a padlocked holdall containing an external hard drive, allegedly with a secret film of an employee of The Sun engaged in sexual activity with their partner. Now, the claims are he paid adult film stars to meet gay men he'd catfished, that is, using a false identity, specifically alleging that he tricked his targets into meetings to be secretly filmed with cameras he supplied. They allege he blackmailed the partner of Murdoch journalists into making covert sex videos, claiming a 10-year campaign of anonymous coercion, which left them allegedly suicidal. And they also claims he was made to make a film with his partner with a suggestion his employer, friends or family would be sent video footage of him having sex with people if he didn't comply. They've alleged that he was a subject of 6 bullying complaints at the Sun newspaper. Allegations have been left, one of them being left suicidal, another deserting the industry, another suffering stress-induced hair loss. And they claim the Sun protected him, or The Sun protected him, while his alleged victims were silenced with non-disclosure agreements. They further allege proof linking Wootton to Branning, including using the same password, the two identities. Now, I said there's been media silence. That's not entirely true. The Guardian have, for example, reported on this, including specifically my brilliant colleague, Jim Waterson, who is a tenacious journalist. And today The Guardian alleged that the Martin Branning pseudonym was used by Dan Wootton to meet a male model in 2013 for a sexual liaison, that he used that pseudonym to arrange a sexual encounter with him, and the model later identified, allegedly, the individual as Dan Wootton. Now, in his monologue on GB News, Dan Wootton said, "I, like all fallible human beings, have made errors of judgment in the past. Who doesn't have regrets? Should I be cancelled from years later? Or do you accept that I've learned and changed? Over the past few years, I've grown professionally and personally, and I've found the meaning of true love." What is he talking about? What are the regrets? In what way has he learned and changed? What's he talking about in terms of being cancelled for what? He's grown. What does that mean? Now, he's denied criminality. It's really important I say that. And criminal proceedings haven't been issued against him. There have been complaints allegedly made to the authorities. Again, he's entitled to a defence and to prove his innocence. But, crucially, he hasn't denied or confirmed that he's used the Martin Branning identity. He's had multiple opportunities to do that, and he hasn't. Why? Now, what we know is News UK, the publishers of The Sun and previously News of the World, before it was shut down in the phone hacking scandal, have launched an investigation and offered any potential alleged victims 24-hour counselling support. His Mail Online column has been suspended, and they've launched an investigation. Private Eye also reports his legal team is telling journalists that he's got a right to privacy under the terms of the European Court of Human Rights, which he recently wrote that the UK should leave. Now, he previously said about Philip Schofield, himself, of course, enveloped in a scandal involving a younger runner, it should be said, allegedly from the age of 20 years old, so no illegality there, but inappropriate relationship in the workplace. I have thought in this day and age that a mainstream broadcaster such as ITV ought to be seen to be doing all it can to deal with issues like this, find out where the truth lies, and in the meantime suspend those with who the rumours concern. Not a standard he has applied to himself. GB News has kept him on air. I mean, again, the issue is why the silence. These are allegations which have largely been left to a far weaker resourced media outlet, Byline Times, than the rest of the British media, on a shoestring budget compared to them. Clearly, they've legaled this. They wouldn't publish things which haven't been legaled, but nonetheless, far fewer resources. Do we really think if this was a BBC presenter, there'd be silence? We don't need to test that. We saw what happened to Hugh Edwards, or a left-wing journalist. Can you imagine what the Sun and the Mail would do with these sorts of allegations? So sure, even though, again, I find Dan Wootton completely objectionable, just odious, that's my personal view, and GB News just poison, it is important that he is allowed to go through these allegations and prove his innocence. That's the standard you should apply to anyone, and I apply that to Dan Wootton. The issue is that the number of people who have allegedly come forward and the weight of the alleged evidence, these rumours have to be taken seriously. Of course they do. And the fact that our right-wing media is silent about this prominent right-wing presenter, what does that tell us? Well, I mean, that's not really a question that needs a massive answer, does it? These are disturbing allegations, as I keep saying, important to say, but, those questions haven't been answered, not least, why hasn't he denied that he is or has used the Martin Branning pseudonym? And, of course, questions of criminality, even if criminality hasn't been committed, again, that depends on what the legal authorities judge, criminality and behaving in a way which is allegedly immoral, they're not one and the same. You can do things which are bad and immoral without facing prosecution for them. I mean, clearly, Hugh Edwards, in the end, wasn't facing any accusations of criminality, but has still paid a very steep price, potentially in terms of his career. Could be off air for the rest of his life. We don't know how that will pan out, but we haven't seen this level of scrutiny with Dan Wootton. So that has to lead to very searching questions about the media and how it runs in this country. And that, for me, in a sense, is one of the big, big questions of this whole saga. Please like, subscribe. Please support us on patreon.com/ojones84 if you want us to keep on going. And listen to us on the podcast. I'll see you soon.